Welcome back to That Metal Show from Los Angeles, California. We'd like to bring out tonight's first guest. Really, there's only one word to describe this legend of the sixth string, and that word, ladies and gentlemen, is Slash.
You and Don almost dressed the same here.
Right?
Yeah,
well, black, you can't up with black.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You inspired me the last time.
How you doing, man? You good?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, it took us a while to get you here the first time, and now we got you back again relatively soon, and it's always good to check in with you and see what's going on in your world, because there's a lot of stuff going on. We'll cover much of it, but before we get into anything,
I'm with you, Eddie.
we gotta talk about my little rant at the top.
That was great. I agree with you.
Well, you are on the ballot with Guns N' Roses. You are nominated.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about it?
What are my thoughts about it? Well, you know, obviously, you know, the thing is trying to figure out exactly what the hard rock or what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame actually is. Like, who put that together? Anybody could have come up with it. But, you know what I'm saying?
Good point, yeah.
But under the circumstances, I don't spend a lot of time dwelling on it, you know.
Yeah.
But it's an honor, you know, all things considered.
Something tells me just, and again, I mean this with no disrespect to you or Guns N' Roses for that matter, but just because credible rock band for once in there, that you are going to go, I would bet anything you're going to go first ballot, that you are going to get nominated. Only because they're going to want the pop that's going to come from the potential ensuing drama. Then all of a sudden everything goes crazy, right? And they can cover it and talk about it, and
There's no drama in Chaka Khan if she gets in. You know?
No,
I don't think Chaka Khan and the guitar player haven't talked in 15 years. So
right, but the other thing is that's interesting about it is you played in a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction that went wrong with Van Halen.
That was not pleasant.
Right. So you've been even though you weren't being inducted, you played the Van Halen set with Velvet Revolver, right? And I mean, so you saw that when it didn't happen the right way, and you had Sammy and Michael up there taking the induction, two guys that weren't in the band anymore.
Yeah, well, it wasn't like the Pistols where they just said, not interested. It went all the way to the very last minute, like the very last second, whether Dave was going to show up or not. So it was a lot of confusion, a lot of pissed off. You know, you can imagine emotions run high and so on and so forth. And we're the band that's got to perform the song, you know,
right.
And we're not sure who's going to show up. You know?
Right.
But yeah, it came and went.
Something tells me that there's going to be some interesting stuff happening leading up to that. And then, of course, if it happens, I mean, I guess you just go up there and accept it and see who the hell joins you on the stage, right?
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, regardless of what happens, you know, we'll be keeping an eye on it like the rest of the world, and we wish you luck. And obviously, it's deserved without question.
Well, of course. And you might have to tell one band member if the ceremony's at 7, it's really at 2 in the afternoon.
Slash isn't touching that
right
one.
along.
Hey, look, but
There's no need to touch it.
let's talk about now. Double live CD disc coming out. Awesome show from your hometown in England. You guys recorded this.
Yeah, Stoke-on-Trent. First time I've ever played there. First time I've been back there since I was 6 years old.
Wow.
So, you know, back in the day when we did our first, you know, UK tours, I was like, well, let's go play Stoke. And they're like, laughing at me, you know. It's like it's such a small town, it doesn't even exist in the promoters' minds. So I've been, you know, pretty much, to use your word, snubbed about doing this until I finally got a hold of my own tour. And I said, listen, all right, book a gig, and I know there's a venue there. And they do. They got a cool theater type deal. That used to be City Hall, and the dressing rooms are actually jail cells.
Wow.
And it, you know, it was cool to be able to do it after all this time. Yeah.
And you said one show? That was it, one
show,
take,
yeah.
that was the CD.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, that's the thing, man. I love live records.
I do too.
I love them still. And unfortunately, I don't know how many of them have really mattered since the 70s. I mean, the 70s were landmark live records. Live records broke bands in the 70s. They were events when they came out.
For me, when I was like, you know, 14, 15 years old, there was I mean, I didn't have any money, and the only way I got records was by stealing them. So if I no, seriously. And so if I wanted to check out a band, you know, what I would do is, instead of having having to go in and take a chance on whatever record in our catalog was the best one, I would just go and nick the live record.
Right.
Because the rock and roll, you know, if you want to, it's all energy. So if you want to listen to what a band really is all about, you get the live album.
I'm laughing as he's telling this story because he said when he didn't have money, he used to do that, but he used to do it when you had money too.
Yeah, well.
You don't remember it though.
No.
Slash came to my radio studio. This is like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, and saying goodbye at the end of the interview. And you come over to say goodbye, and I had all my CDs out on the console, and he comes over to say goodbye to me before he leaves, gives me like the little hug. I feel something in his jacket. I'm like, hey man, what is that? And I look, and he goes, oh, no, he starts walking down the hall. I go, what do you got in there? And he goes, all right, dude. And he pulls it out, and he's got, at the time, my brand new Cheap Trick at Budokan special edition. And in the other hand, you have great taste, I'll give you this, the new deluxe UFO Strangers
Yeah, I
in the
remember
Night.
the UFO, yeah.
He remembers the UFO. And I'm like, what are you doing with those? And he's
Well, see,
like,
because I couldn't get them in a record store, even if I had all the money in the world at that time.
and I remember saying that to you, and I'm like, why don't you just go buy him? You got the dough, and you're like, it's just too much trouble, dude. Come on, I'll give you the money.
Slash can't go in a record store. People are going to bother him.
At that point, I could, you know.
By the way, my wallet's missing out of the dressing room, so.
Yeah, right?
But it was cool that you had great taste in what you were trying to nick off of me, at least. So.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
absolutely. All right, coming up, we have a lot more with Slash, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of That Metal Show. Glenn Hughes. Show, your home of all things hard rock and heavy metal. Now, we always like to take some of our artists into a journey into their past, if you will, and open up the That Metal Show vault. So take a look, Slash, what we have for you.
My whole snake fixation started in San Francisco when I went to go stay with some friends there with my mom, and I started catching garter snakes in the backyard. Right? And ever since then, I've always had snakes. And basically, at this point, we have a little over 300 reptiles at home, snakes and lizards. The snake that I had that toured around with Guns N' Roses was a snake called Clyde, an anaconda from South America. And he was sort of like the band's mascot. And he lived with us for ages. And my mom said, between snakes and guitars, I have a phallic problem.
You remember that one?
I've never seen that. No, it was my first trip. Actually, my first and only trip to India.
Oh, that was
for MTV. It was the MTV Asia launch, and so we went around. You know, I think it was in Bangalore, and we walked around. And as soon as I saw the guys with the cobras, I was like, oh, killer. You know.
What happened to Clyde?
Clyde, you know, he was a rock and roll snake. He hung in there, and he finally passed away at one point.
How many snakes do you have now?
Just one.
That's it?
I'm married, so it changes things a little bit. So he's no longer one of 85 snakes in the middle of the house. He's now one snake living in the gym.
Even Slash has to cut it down from 85 to 1, being married?
Well, I mean, she when she first started going out with me, it was a total of 90 some odd reptiles, and she lived with them. But when we had our first son, it was a mutual agreement. It was like, you know, I know kids, and especially boys, and these snakes are all 10, 15 feet or bigger. Mm-hmm. You're pushing the envelope, having a snake, you know, those kind of snakes around a baby. Anyway, so we decided to give them all away. And then when London was, my oldest son was about 4, I think, 4 or 5, someone gave me a snake for my birthday, and so we've kept him ever since. But we keep him in the garage. And the first day that I had him, London got bit. I said, don't touch his face. Just, you know, do anything, but don't touch his face. So he grabbed him by the head.
Right.
Snake bit him twice in about 1 second. And he started crying, and I was like, I told you. But Mom wasn't anywhere, you know, she was not too happy about that.
And you're just doing something really cool now. You're producing horror films?
I am producing. I got 4 in development right now. The first one is called Nothing to Fear, and it is in a process. We're just closing the deals on casting, so I can't tell you who the actors and actresses are, but it shoots in January.
Are you going to score the music to the movies too?
I'm meeting with some composers tomorrow, actually, since you brought it up. This first one, I have an idea for what I want it to sound like, but I don't necessarily want to do guitar on everything. I want to have an actual orchestra and so on and so forth. So we'll see. Each one will be different.
And it's Slasher Films, right?
Yeah.
Your company? Are you producing and directing? Or
I'm just producing, and I've got partners, and I'm a huge horror fan, and I was having a conversation one night with my partner Rob, who is from Scout Productions, and the fact that I knew as much as I did about horror movies, he goes, you should produce one. And so he said, I'll find you a script, because they do horror movies anyway. And it took about 1.5 years, and he finally produced a really good script, and I've been hands-on ever since.
Hey, I want to bring up, before we have to move on here, I was lucky enough last night, you were nice enough to play me 3 songs from what will be your next record. And it's going to come out around April of next year, of 2012. And this album, first of all, what I heard, the 3 songs, totally honestly, were phenomenal, slamming hard rock.
I thought you were just being nice.
No, I'm being honest. You know me. I'll tell you.
I know.
No, Slash tweeted after you left, and he said, I had Eddie over the house to listen to some songs. He dug them, or at least that's what he said.
Last thing, and I know we're really real quick, because you have another record coming out, you're going to continue this. Duff is doing Loaded. Velvet Revolver seems to be pretty much on the back burner for everybody right now, right?
It's been on the back burner, but you know, for the simple reason that we can't find anybody to front the band. That, I mean, you know, all things considered, we were so desperate when we first put it together after like 10 months of auditioning singers and all the stuff. When Scott came in, it was a dodgy proposition on all fronts.
Oh yeah.
But we went ahead and did it anyway, and it turned out, it did not surprise me the way that it turned out, yeah. And so now it's like nobody it's not that much of an urgency now to just get anybody. We want to get the right person, so that's what's been going on.
Cool.
All right, well, more with Slash, but coming up, we're going to have metal filmmaker Sam Dunn stopping by. And then the metal quizmaster gets ready for another brutal season of Stump the Trunk. But before we go, we're honored to have with us tonight the guy that tried to sell me weed about an hour ago outside. Awesome, dude. Take us out, Glenn.